So for my poem, I chose Corona in the Countryside by Aggie Mishal, and the poem goes, "In the cemetery, the dead grow weeds. This is how they speak. Each interprets as they will. Some produce a shrub or even an entire cypress tree. According to the hillocks, a blind mole too tunnels underneath. We are still here, ambling about in twos, and wonder at the taunting clothes of spring, coughing freely into its green fields." So like I said, this poem was written by Aggie Mishal, who's from Israel, or who lives in Israel right now. And that's kind of why I picked this, because I wanted to read a poem by a person that actually lives in a foreign country about some current world event. And so I think COVID really sticks out at this one, because we can see like the charts and the graphs of what's happening related to COVID in different parts of the world, but we can never really see how specific people are reacting. I think this poem gives a nice idea of that. Some things that stood out to me were the syntax, specifically the phrase, "Some produce a shrub or even an entire cypress tree." And prior to that statement, it talks about deaths of people from COVID, probably. And so I interpreted this as the different effects that people have on the world when they die, probably of COVID. So the shrubs could mean when somebody dies, it has just a small effect on their family or some of their friends. Or an entire cypress tree could mean that their whole country remembers them or their community. And another thing that stood out to me was the diction, and specifically "in wonder at the taunting clothes of spring." And I was pretty confused about this for a while, but I interpreted this as the people of Israel being curious about what spring could have been in 2020 had the shutdown not occurred. And a little about Aggie Mishal is, like I said, she lives in Israel. She was born in Romania. She's 74 years old. She was parents of Holocaust survivors, and she's won several awards, but I think the most prominent is probably the Israel Prime Minister Award. And in 2020, she was accepted into the Israel Institute of Advanced Studies.